This Rosh Hashanah morning, as we do each year, and in just a few moments, we will read one of the most difficult and haunting passages in our tradition, the Akeidah, the binding of Isaac. It is a story that forces us to confront questions of faith, fear, sacrifice, and survival. It forces us to question our God, who the Torah says, Nisa et Avraham, who God tested Abraham by asking the unthinkable. And it forces us to question the role of Abraham, our patriarch, who without question or protest acquiesced to God's demand and took Isaac, his son, to offer him as a sacrifice. Abraham walks with his son, we're told, step after agonizing step, carrying wood and fire, but unsure of how the journey will end. We, the readers, know the ending, that God stays Abraham's hand. But we also know that the trauma of that walk, the test of that moment, is forever etched into the soul of our people. This year, as we come to this story, we cannot read it as just a safe ancient fable. No, this year we read it with trembling hands and heavy hearts, because once again, the Jewish people, all of us, are walking up the mountain, not knowing how this story will end. Israel is still at war. The war that began on October 7th, 2023, when Hamas terrorists crossed the border, slaughtering over 1,200 people, injuring thousands more, and abducting hundreds into Gaza, while many of our people have been in a state of relentless grief and fear, continues to rage, with lives shattered on both sides. We continue to mourn for the victims of October 7th, as we also mourn the Israeli soldiers and civilians who have been lost. And at the same time, we ache for the innocent civilians in Gaza who are suffering under an unbearable and cruel regime, many suffering from hunger due to decisions and actions made by their own leaders, as well as leaders in Israel, Qatar, Egypt, and elsewhere. We can mourn the many thousands of innocent loss on both sides of the border, while simultaneously voicing full-throated support for Hamas to be disarmed and removed from power, and lovingly critiquing the Jewish state when its actions run afoul of Jewish values. And still we carry the unbearable reality that 48 of our brothers remain in captivity. Those who are still alive are being starved, tortured, and held in the darkness of tunnels. Today is day 717. 717 days since October 7th. 2 Rosh Hashanahs later, we are approaching 2 years of absence. Nearly 2 years of prayers, rallies, vigils, and tears. Each of these individuals are etched on our lips in prayer and carved into our souls in grief. In the Mishnah, we read that Berosh Hashanah kol ba'ei olam ovrin lefanav. On Rosh Hashanah, all creatures pass before God. And just as God heard the cries of our ancestors in bondage in Egypt, we pray that on this Rosh Hashanah, as the 48 pass before God, their cries are heard, and they are set free now. But the mountain we are climbing is not only in the Middle East. Beyond the borders of Israel, we see the shadow of the Akeidah in a different form. A rise in anti-Semitism that has made Jews across the world feel less safe, less certain, less at home. We have seen ancient hatred wear new masks, protests that cross into outright Jew hatred, social media posts that recycle blood libels in meme form, governments that treat Israel with a double standard and treat Jews as guilty until proven innocent. We have seen it in the streets of our communities, on college campuses, in the halls of Congress, on social media, and in so many places in between. The old hatreds which we thought were fading into history are once again walking beside us, screaming in our ears and pounding against our hearts. For many who are exhibiting vitriolic Jew hatred, the connection is being made between condemnations of the state of Israel and a general hatred of Jews. Or even worse, anti-Semitism is being veiled by anti-Zionism. And the interactions are depressing and they're disgusting. Just a few weeks ago, many of you saw a video that went across social media that was taken by David Lubin. David lives here in Atlanta and is the father of Rose Lubin. Rose, you will remember, was a native of Atlanta, Georgia, who moved to Israel as a lone soldier to enlist in the IDF and was drafted to serve in the border police. She would often stay with her adopted family in Kibbutz Sa'ad near the Gaza Strip and was there on Simchat Torah when Hamas carried out its murderous onslaught on southern Israel. Rose, just 1 month later, was murdered when she was stabbed in Jerusalem. In the caption of the video that her father posted, which showed a recent interaction he had with two of his neighbors, David wrote, "This is what anti-Semitism looks like in real life. Months ago, my neighbors put a sign in their yard with a slur for Jews written 21 times. And today they still keep their signs up, but rip down my Rose stickers whenever they see them. When I tried to replace one, they screamed at me, right there on my own street. It's exhausting, it's scary, and it's a reminder, hate isn't some faraway problem. It's here staring us in the face." Now, David, to his credit, stayed calm while talking to these two neighbors of his, and for anyone who saw it, we can marvel at his patience as these two discounted the murder of his daughter just because she was a Jew and a member of the IDF. But this video, as we know, is only one of many instances that affected members of our community over these past months. Our students on campus have told me of their interactions with those shouting at the top of their lungs for a free Palestine that stretches from the river to the sea while calling for a globalization of the Intifada. Our high schoolers have told me of their interactions with fellow students, most of whom are not Palestinian, that show up to school wearing keffiyehs while not understanding the message that these garments portray. And just last month, a member of our community reached out to me because she and her middle schooler attended sneak peek at their school and came home with a pamphlet from an individual teacher introducing himself and welcoming his students to his class, and his picture, prominently displayed on the cover, was him wrapped in that very garment. When I spoke with the principal about this the next day, he informed me that he had already spoken to the teacher who was, in his words, unaware of the message he was sending to his students. I pushed back, explaining to the principal why this was so offensive and threatening to the Jewish students in his school, and repeating more than once the point that as a teacher, this individual is in a position where he should have known. And if he didn't, the excuse isn't good enough. Each year, as we read the story of the Akeidah, some will ask, why do we need to read this story every year? Shouldn't we take today, the New Year, as a celebration, as a day to be uplifted, to rejoice, our own Jewish version of the ball drop on Times Square? Well, the rabbis of our tradition give many answers, but one has always struck with me. Because life doesn't only give us joyous stories. The Torah doesn't shy away from the hardest questions. And Rosh Hashanah is not simply about joy, it's about truth. And the truth is, some years, this year, we are on Mount Moriah, and the knife is in the air. Abraham's test was to keep walking, to keep trusting, even when the path ahead was unclear. Ours is to hold on to our faith, our unity, and our moral courage in the face of fear and uncertainty. On this Rosh Hashanah morning, as the shofar calls us to wakefulness, we must ask, what does it mean to walk up the mountain together in 5786? And how will we ensure that, like Abraham and Isaac, we come down from that mountain, scarred perhaps, but alive, whole, and still bound to one another? These questions do not come with easy answers, but our tradition can help us start to form them. The Midrash in Breshit Rabbah tells us that Abraham raised the knife, and the angels cried out. I've thought about that Midrash when I see the faces of hostage families, when I saw the video of Abiatar David emaciated in a tunnel, potentially digging his own grave, and in the faces of Jewish students on campus and in our own community, sharing their stories of anti-Semitism from their peers. Where are the angels now? Why hasn't God sent them? Maybe the answer is, we are the angels. We are taught not to stand idly by, which tells us that on Rosh Hashanah, on this day of judgment, we are judged not only for what we have done, but for what we have failed to do. We are the ones who must act and pray fiercely enough to stop that knife. Stopping the knife of anti-Semitism will not be easy. No, it will be one of the most difficult things we do as a community. But for all of our sakes, the shofar calls us today to wake up and to stand up. Shai Davide, who until recently served as associate professor at Columbia University and was one of the leaders of the pro-Israeli community at that school, famously said in response to the protests on his campus, "I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm speaking up because I'm afraid." When asked how he stays motivated and to keep speaking out against anti-Semitism and the vitriol he hears every day, he said, "Honestly, I don't have any other choice. There are many days when I'm like, I'm done. I don't want this. I want the problem to go away. But then I go on social media and I see the rabid anti-Semitism. And I also think there are moments in people's lives when you have to take a stand. This is the moment for me." This truly is a moment for all of us. When Abraham was called by God to be tested, he answered, "Hineni, here I am." This is a moment where we must all answer, "Hineni, hinenu." Here we are. We are here and we are not going anywhere. We are here and we are created in the image of God just like everyone else. We are here. This is what we must all do. Grieve together for the victims of violence both here and across the world. Support one another and speak out against barbarism and hatred. Speak out against an anti-Semitic ethos in the Middle East and elsewhere that sees it as acceptable to murder everyone from toddlers to senior citizens just because they are Jews. And speak out against an anti-Semitic ethos that has permeated our streets, our communities, and our schools, that calls for an end to the sole Jewish state in the world, that intimidates Jewish individuals, and that has been hate-filled and violent. Let the world, from your friends, your co-workers, your classmates, and your neighbors, to the strangers in your midst, know, and urge others to speak up as well. But the difficulty in this situation is we often feel like we're on the journey alone. The Jewish community in this country has been at the forefront of so many different causes, acting as allies to so many different marginalized groups. But far too often, there has been silence from the non-Jewish community. Now, I want to be clear, those who I mentioned earlier this morning in this room, our community leaders here in Johns Creek, have been strong allies and friends of our community. They have reached out to me on many occasions to check in, speaking against hatred and anti-Semitism, and making it clear that they will not stand for these words and actions in our broader community. And to each of you, I say thank you. Thank you for being a support system. Thank you for standing up for what is right and being there for us and being here with us. And especially to the men and women of the Johns Creek Police Department, thank you for keeping us safe each time we gather here in our sacred space. Chief, Deputy Chief, your team are truly a blessing to our community. Thank you. But from too many others, there has been deafening silence. Following the attack on the peaceful march in Boulder on the morning of Erev Shavuot, my friend and colleague Rabbi Asher Knight wrote the following: "If you believe in peace, now is the time to say that violence is never acceptable. If you believe in justice, now is the time to reject hatred in all its forms. If you believe that all people are created in the image of God," the text they cite, by the way, is Jewish, "now is the time to say that Jewish people are also created in the image of God. You can oppose war and still condemn terror. You can grieve for Gaza and innocent life and still say that burning Jews alive is wrong. You can challenge Israeli policy and still know that Jews and Israelis everywhere are not responsible for it. If you care about justice, say something. Stand for what is right. Do not let hate go unanswered." Rabbi Knight's call in his writing was directed to our non-Jewish neighbors, those who have been historically our friends and partners. But the call that he writes is truly for all of us. We cannot let hate go unanswered. And we answer it by speaking up and showing up. We cannot let fear prevent us from speaking out against hatred, and we cannot let fear prevent us even one iota from practicing our Judaism with love and with joy. Our doors here at CDT are open. We have them guarded by members of our local police department, yes, but they are open for each one of us to come and connect with our Jewish identity and our Jewish community. For when we come together as a community, we strengthen one another. Even when there are issues and beliefs that threaten to divide us, and we're Jews, there's always issues and beliefs that divide us. Our community has the ability to look beyond the divisiveness and support one another. And as we grow in strength together, we will continue to be able to actively stand up against those forces that seek our demise. But remember, our doors are not just open for our members. They are open as an opportunity to connect others to the Jewish people as well. Bring your friends to a service or an adult ed class. Show them the love and joy and hospitality we have within our four walls. For relationships built through understanding will further strengthen those we call to be allies as well. In the book of Isaiah we read, "Cry out with a full throat, without restraint. Raise your voice like a shofar." Every time we hear the shofar, it is the sound of survival. It is a remembrance of that moment so many years ago on the mountain. It's the moment the knife is lowered. It is the cry that says, "Choose life." So today when we hear the shofar, let it be a call to lower that knife. Let it be a promise of the blessings that future may bring. Let its cry herald the return of those held in captivity. And let the shofar we hear today motivate each of us to action. I have to say, though, it will not be easy. And it may not always work to change people's minds and hearts, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Many of you will recall just a few weeks ago, the Toronto International Film Festival rescinded their invitation to screen the film The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue. Because the festival claimed the filmmakers had not received explicit permission to use videos of the Hamas operatives during the attack in the film, with the festival fearing a potential lawsuit. Now, let me clarify this. It's absurd. The film festival attempted to cancel the showing of a documentary about October 7th due to concerns that the footage, which was taken by Hamas terrorists themselves on their own cameras and then broadcast to the world by the same Hamas terrorists, would violate the copyright of the Hamas terrorists. Come on. Jewish organizations and individuals from around the world cried out against this action, and the film festival did reverse course and did show the movie. As I said, it's not easy, doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And our fears and reluctances should not keep us from standing up for what is right. It is what our tradition demands of us. When the ark would go forth, as our ancestors traveled through the wilderness, Moses would call out at the beginning of each part of the journey, "Kuma Adonai, v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha." Advance, O Adonai. May your enemies be scattered, and may your foes flee before you. It is a call and a reminder that each time the Torah comes out from the ark, that we are to stand up and take the lessons of Torah out into the world, to spread love, justice, and hope, while being that or legoyim, that light to the nations. So as we prepare to take our Torahs from the ark, may it lead us, along with the blast of the shofar we hear this morning, to go out in the world, proclaiming Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, will live, thrive, and survive, while simultaneously we work to lessen hatred, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and replace each one of those with love. May this be our hope, our prayer, and our call to action, as well as what we are blessed to be inscribed with this year in the Book of Life. Amen.
Amen.